Hello, it's Helen again, and today I am going to be talking to you about an irregular verb, and it's probably the most important irregular verb in any language, to be honest, not just Latin, and it's the verb sum or esse, meaning to be or I am. I've just sort of included this in the corner as a sort of little revision of the last class. So we've got the O, which in other tenses can be an M, but this pattern of the present tense of the O, S, T, mus, tis, und. And we will see a bit of a variation on this in this verb to be, but it will be a bit odd because this is an odd verb. Okay, so again, we're not really looking at these two in the same way as we weren't when we were looking at other verbs. I'm just going to write another verb here. So I'm going to go back to amo from the last lesson. So we've got amo, amari, amarvi, and amatus. And as you can see here, we've kind of got the same stem all the way through. We've got the am. Whereas the verb to be is just a bit weird. It just kind of does its own thing. You can actually see here, though, if you're interested, that the futurus, that's kind of where the word future comes from. So let's go through the present tense of sum then. So again, we've got the first person present as the main dictionary form. So when you look in the dictionary, this is what you're going to see. It's going to be these four forms. We're not really looking at these two now, but this is your present first person singular. So we've got sum, I am, es, meaning you are, est, which is he, she, or it is. And as you can see, as we go down, English kind of does the same thing that Latin does, of having it just be a bit irregular and not really following any recognizable pattern. And if you know any French, or I'm sure other languages do the same thing, it's just, it doesn't follow the rules in the same way that we might expect it to. So what I'm doing here is I'm following the same pattern that we did before, of these three being singular, these three being plural, and them all kind of going first person, second person, third person. So I, you, he, she, or it, we, you, they. So we've got this pattern there of sum, es, est, sumus, estis, sunt. And you can again kind of see this pattern here recurring in the endings here. So we've got the m, the s, t, mus, tis, und. But the stem of the word is just kind of being a bit odd. And it becomes very second nature very quickly. Like, you very, very quickly learn to recognize these verbs when you see them in a sentence. So I'm going to use it in the sentence quickly now. Let's think. I'm trying to think of a noun. Let's say puella sum. And so we can see this is I am. So we've got I am as something. This is just the noun meaning girl. So I'm just saying I am a girl. And if I wanted to add extra emphasis, I could say ego am sum, ego sum puella even. So that would be I am a girl. But we don't usually bother with this because, as I said in the last video, the pronouns we generally don't use in this kind of situation because it's all incorporated in the verb anyway, and there's not really any point in repeating ourselves unless it's for emphasis. So yeah, so the reason this is the most important, I think, of the Latin irregular verbs is because, like in English, when we say I was doing something, so I was working, we use the verb to be to sort of modify other tenses. So, for example, if we return to amo, we might say amatus est. And we're going to go more in depth in this later, but what this means is he was loved, and this is for a passive form of the verb that sort of comes as its own distinct thing. And we can tell this is he was loved and not she was loved because this happens to be a masculine ending. We're going to go into this when we do nouns. That's an S there. When we do nouns and adjectives, because they've got distinct endings. So, for example, this a here is a feminine ending, which you can kind of guess because, you know, you'd expect the word puella, girl, to be feminine. So that's kind of the verb to be then. And just down here, I've just written a bit of Latin, and you may be able to guess, sort of looking at the names, that this has come from Harry Potter. And I've used Harry Potter. There's a Latin translation of it. I've forgotten who it's by. I think it's by someone called Peter Needham, but I'll write it in the notes. So you don't have to get it if you're not. I'm going to use it a few times, but don't feel like you have to get hold of the book, because any quotes I use from any author, I'm going to write them out in full, so you don't have to get hold of any texts or anything, because they can be sort of prohibitively expensive. I'm using Harry Potter for a few reasons. Firstly, because it's fun and I like it, and as I'm in charge, I feel I've got that right. Also because J.K. Rowling is a classicist and I think she'd approve. And also because there's just quite a few classical references throughout Harry Potter, so I feel like it might be a bit of fun just to go into them as we're learning the Latin. So there's some very obvious bits here, so I'm just going to sort of fill in the names. And this is quite a good way of approaching translations, is to just sort of recognize the words you know and just fill them in. So we've got the names done. And then there's two words here that we should recognize from today's lesson. So if I underline those and then scroll up, we can see we've got es and we've got sum. So we've got I am and we've got you are. So we've got you are here. Ooh. Oh. You are. We've got I am. Two is, I know I just said that we generally don't use pronouns, but this is quite an emphatic moment and it just means you. So we've got you are. And then inquit is just, it's a very, very common word. You usually see it in this form. It's very rare to see it in any other form. Occasionally you'll see it as inquam, which just is the first person, but it just means he said, and you'll see it all the time whenever there's any direct, or she said. Whenever there's any direct speech, it's usually inquit that follows that. Exclamavit is, you sort of might think of the word exclaim, and this is just sort of another version. Like, I could have swapped this out for inquit, but I thought I'd leave it in. It's just an extra bit of vocab. It just means Harry exclaimed. So you might then start to recognize this scene as being quite a famous one within Harry Potter, and it's the moment in the first book where Hagrid says, "You're a wizard, Harry." So we've got Harry, you are a wizard, or a mage, said Hagrid. I'm a what? Quid just means what? It's just a recurring pronoun. use it quite a lot just to mean that which was previously referred to. So we've got, I'm a what? Exclaimed Harry. So there you go. That's our first little bit of translation that we've sort of done here together. And I hope you've enjoyed it and sort of take away this. If you don't take anything else away from this lesson, it's just this sum es est, sumus estis sunt. And I hope you enjoyed that and it wasn't too silly for you. So thank you very much.